So on CNN, they had a hot conversation dealing with the issue of DEI, other thoughts, and Ashley Allison, who was a commentator on the network, you know what? She went back and forth with them talking about her experience in the workplace. MAGA is really upset with what she had to say. Watch this.
People that they like to be around.
Do you think they like to hire the best people for the job?
But I also think around the idea of diversity.
No, Donald Trump hired all of his friends. But I want to go back to people that are in his cabinet right now. You know, because you are a smart man. I know you know this.
Why don't you understand how political appointments work? I don't understand.
It's not about, but this is, can we just go beyond, can we just go beyond the cabinet? Because, yes, the president gets to pick whoever he wants, and the Senate is now for the Republicans, and I would have hoped that some of them would have had more profiles and courage, but they didn't, and they actually put people in that I do believe in your party you have more qualified people who could be in that cabinet. I'd like to think that. But that's not what they chose.
Secretary of
Defense. That's not what they chose. So go for it. The issue in this country right now is we live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
West Scott.
I got it. And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about Ashley Allison right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not because...
Even in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think he worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Scott.
Look.
I'm head Scott.
Look,
you're my friend. I respect you tremendously. I think you're probably the smartest operative in the Democratic Party, and they should listen to you more. That's number one. Number two, you and I share a comparable background. We're both from the Midwest. We both come from middle-class families, lower middle-class families maybe. I actually think we share a lot of similarities in our journey. But I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often at every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic. And that's all anybody ever is asking for, is for people with talent and work ethic to make it. And that's what I see in you. That's how I see you.
But let me tell you something about my story and my family's story, is that we have faced discrimination. I have faced discrimination. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes, to my counterparts. It is just the reality of the country we live in. And I'm not saying, I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
All right. See right there. And that's the key. See, you heard Scott. Oh, my God, you're great. You're wonderful. I think you're so talented. It's about hard work and your knowledge. She's like, dumbass, you didn't hear what I said. I'm talking about the money. I'm talking about being grossly underpaid. See, this is what the right wing does. And see, remember, Pence and Trump last time, systemic racism. I don't believe in it. They want to deny it. It reminds me when I was on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. I had to school his ass. When it came to racism in housing. And if y'all want to see, now first of all, his ass ain't even from here. He from Iran. He ain't even from here. He tried to say in an interview, why don't I go back to the neighborhood I grew up in? Why don't your ass go back to the country your ass from and fix that? Watch this. I just want y'all to understand how these people are nuts.
Are you familiar with Palmdale? I'm gonna need you to be drug tested. Seriously. Yeah. Do you even know today? We've done the stories in Florida. When somebody's black selling their house, the appraisers will come in and literally give them a value $100,000 to $300,000 less because they're black. You know that that's actually happened, right?
You'll take one story and say that.
Oh my God!
On how many occasions has that happened?
Are you serious?
Do you think a message like
Okay, why don't you go ahead and Google? Why don't you go ahead and Google?
How many times has that happened? No, I believe it's happened, but how many times has that happened?
The New York Times literally just did a story talking about the systemic racism that exists within housing appraisals. This is a fundamental problem. I'm trying to see you're living in a different reality.
What progress are you making by saying that?
What progress?
So what you're doing?
I'm trying to end that. Okay. Do you know how inherent? Okay, hold on. You said you're Middle Eastern, right?
You're trying to.
Hold on. You said you're Middle Eastern, right?
I am. Yes.
How would you feel? How would you feel?
Yes.
If you're selling your home, you've got a home that you know,
right?
And you put upgrades in it, and you know your home is worth $500,000.
Yeah.
And somebody comes into your home, and they see your photos,
right?
And they see your family, and then they go back and they go $350,000. You go, what the hell?
So you tell that story.
Wait, one second.
To get people to be convinced that's happening.
It's actually
out of 1,000 appraisals.
Oh my God.
Out of 1,000 appraisals, how many times does that happen? Out of 1,000 appraisals, how many times does that happen?
You want to pull that up? You want him to pull that up?
That's your world, though. Out of 1,000 appraisals, how many times does that happen? Let's just say it happens.
It is a significant issue in America.
Oh my God!
And wait, one second. And then when the woman, a black person should not have to remove their photos from the wall and remove black art and remove black books to have a white appraiser then come in and go, oh, it's actually 550.
So
one second, because I'm gonna show you how it impacts generationally.
Here we go.
So when you follow me here, because this is housing in America. When you then get that lower appraisal, you then cannot sell your house for the higher value, which then means you are not then taking those proceeds and being able to invest, being able to send your kids to school. And what I'm trying to explain to you is there is a world out here that for some reason you're like living in Unity world that ain't the real America.
Brother, I'm
trying to get rid of that stuff.
You have the wrong guy here. I'm
trying to get rid of it.
Okay, good for you. I am as well, but you have the wrong guy here. And here's what I mean by that. So when you ask the question, what do you do if they appraise your house $350,000 less, right? That's your question. Okay. I don't see myself as a victim. I stopped looking at myself as a victim a long time ago. And by the way, being Armenian and Assyrian, you know what a lot of people in the Armenian community do? You know what a lot of people in the Armenian community do? They sell victimhood mentality. I'm raised with that, which is the statement of mechka. I know you don't know what the word mechka means. Mechka means, oh, poor Roland, oh, poor PBD. I don't see myself as a victim. And the other part is when you use one story as an example to divide and get people even angrier, because out of 1,000 appraisals, this happened one time, I don't think you're unifying when you say a statement like that to say, hey, this is what's taking place all the time. But going back to it, so you left because you wanted better economic situation for yourself.
Listen to what you just said. Again,
I'm having a hard time listening to what you just said when you're saying
it's so fundamentally flawed because when you say, "Oh my God," you see yourself as a victim.
You do.
No,
you're selling it as a victim.
No, I'm not. What I'm selling is a reality. What I'm selling is when this is again. Since I guess you couldn't pull it up. Okay.
Oh, he did pull it up.
Okay. The Biden administration, the Federal Housing and Finance Agency, released 47 million appraisal reports to the public for the first time. The appraisals, which were compiled between 2013 and 2021, present evidence of a persistent, widespread practice in the home appraisal industry to give higher values to homes when the occupants are white and devalue them if the owners are people of color.
That's such bullshit. That's such bullshit. You know why?
Hold up.
Let me tell you why that's such bullshit.
They actually took the reports and showed the data, and now you call it bullshit.
Of course I call it bullshit.
So you ask for the data and the facts.
No.
And now you give your opinion because you don't like the facts.
Bro.
Come on, man.
Do you run a company?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so when you run a company, how much shit can I find in the OPEX? How much
in the what?
With OPEX. When I go into my balance sheet and I look at my expenses, my monthly expenses, what I'm paying for, rent, employees, benefits, workers' comp, I can give a number and say, we lost $280,000 this year. And it's like, oh my God, we lost $280,000. And then I open up the balance sheet and then boom, I'll see you're moving your face like you don't know what I'm talking about.
First of all,
when I see a data like this, tell me the whole story. To jump to conclusion with something like this without seeing the entire story is ludicrous to make a comment like that. But
analyzing the millions of appraisals by using census tracts as a proxy for neighborhoods and comparing communities with nearly identical housing stock, two researchers found that the results showed a clear correlation. The higher the proportion of white residents in each community, the higher the appraised value of individual homes. They compared similar data. See, again, you want to reject the facts. And what I'm trying to explain to you I
am refusing to constantly have people give data without me having access to the entire thing for their own benefit to divide
So what you're saying is, in order for you need access to the 47 million home appraisals.
I'd love to see yourself. I would love to see it.
Okay, guess what? It's a federal agency. File a FOIA.
I'd love to see it.
File a FOIA.
But here's file a what?
A FOIA.
Okay, so I'd love to see it. You know why? Here's the part. How often do you see data being used and we don't know the whole story? Both sides. How often?
Well, first of all, we see data out there, but what I'm saying, I'm looking at data, actual data, and I'm also looking at a reality. And here's what I'm saying to you. And again, this is what you, for some reason, you're not fully accepting. What is the most consistent way Americans have been able to actually build wealth? It has been through housing. That's been historical. And when you are black in America, this is not an opinion. This is not a perspective. It's a fact. What we have seen is when you have been unable to enter the housing industry, meaning covenants saying you can't sell to black people, then when you actually buy a home and they've been grossly undervalued, that then limits you from being able to sell your home at a higher value and now take the profits and then create a business and then be able to send your kids to college. And what I'm saying to you is when that has been persistent, when you look at the appraisals, one, when you look at inability where you're buying a house, two, all of a sudden now you see a clear way how African Americans have been impacted, not historically, but still in present day. And what I'm saying to you is, whether you are Democrat or Republican, I want that to change because what I want
you've had 53 years.
So come on. So I want y'all to understand. Y'all heard all that. See, I wanted to play that for a reason. Because, see, even when you present the facts, well, I need to see the data for myself. I don't believe that. I mean, you're bringing up just one example. I mean, I don't understand what you're doing. They are living in an alternate world, y'all. They are. When you show the data, how much a black man makes compared to a white man? Oh, well, you know, education. Now, the brother or the sister got more degrees than the white guy. Oh, well, what? You mean tell me that there's data that shows that the average black college graduate makes less than a white high school graduate? Oh, well, I don't, okay, dang, now I got to figure, but this is the game that they play. And then with a Scott Jennings, well, man, I think you're wonderful. You're talented. You're very smart. I think you're the smartest analyst in the Democratic Party. They should be listening to you. I think you're amazing. You've got work ethic. And he never addressed her central issue. I get paid less. This is the bullshit that we deal with, Matt, Zachary, and Michael. I'm gonna start with you, Matt. And that white folk, even white liberals, but especially white conservatives, white Republicans, can't deal with. Ashley was on point, and MAGA, they can go to hell for attacking that sister for trying to educate you idiots.
No, it's not that they can't deal with it. It's that they won't deal with it. And what Scott Jennings did is what we see them do every time. They try to tokenize one person without looking at all of the phenomena, right? What did he do? He started lauding her and about how she's great and all that. She's talking about something that we all experience. And instead of addressing that issue, he decided to say, but you're my friend. You're cool. You're good. right? We are not judged on an individual person. We're judged across how our people are treated. And if we are getting paid systemically less than everyone, that is a demonstrably true phenomenon that's provable by evidence. And it doesn't matter how Midwesternly genteel and saccharine sweet you sound when you say that she's A-OK, Scott Jennings, when she's talking about a phenomena that is easily provable. It's not that they won't or they can't deal with it. It's that they won't deal with it.
And to that particular that they won't deal with it, Michael, here's Frank Luntz trying to white mansplain how folks in my focus group, they just don't want to hear these things because you make them feel bad. Listen.
These people, I focus group them, and they are really, really tired of being accused of either racism or sexism because they voted for Donald Trump. And it's one of the reasons why so many of them did. I sat on this stage with you and got chewed out when I suggested there's a better language to reach out to voters, that the Harris campaign is missing what they're looking for. And I say this, the same thing here. Americans just want to be Americans, not hyphenated Americans, not female Americans, black Americans, Jewish Americans. They just want to be Americans.
How do you think it makes people feel, black people, women, any person who has immutable characteristics about themselves, to be told every time that something happens that because they exist in a particular role, it is their fault? How does it make them feel?
How does it make people feel when they're told that they're a racist?
No. I mean, answer. But answer my question.
I am, because these are predetermined considerations.
No. You're telling me I'm calling.
Do you want an answer?
Well, you're not answering my question. You're telling me.
Yes, I'm trying to.
You were telling me that
your response is in bad faith. I mean, what she is saying is something you're not responding to because it doesn't address why Donald Trump immediately went to DEI as an explanation without any evidence whatsoever for what looks to be an inexcusable and certainly a very devastating and tragic plane and helicopter crash a couple of days ago. And instead, you pivot to talking about how terrible it is that some people who voted for Donald Trump are being called racist and sexist. You're refusing to grapple with.
It was actually a 10-minute segment, and there's no way in hell I was going to play all 10 minutes because, I mean, that bullshit gets to my nerves. But, Michael, this is the fact. White folks in this country, especially white conservatives, oh, my God, you're saying these things to them, and we're Americans, and we're not hyphenated, all this sort of stuff. Well, they don't like hearing bad news. That's why in this country, we've always had to soften our tone, change it, because we gotta talk about these things to make white people comfortable, to make them not, no, but that's not me. That's why DeSantis and the Republicans changed the law in Florida, where if you bring up sensitive historical facts, and if a white person feels uncomfortable in the classroom, then the conversation has to stop because I'm uncomfortable. I feel like I'm being attacked because of the Scottsboro boys. Feel like I'm being attacked because 4 little girls were bombed in a Birmingham church. I feel like I'm being attacked because black people were beaten and killed. I feel like I'm being attacked because white people lynched black soldiers in their uniforms. I'm being attacked because we literally had an institution called slavery where we debased, dehumanized, and murdered and subjugated people of African descent. And so, therefore, since I feel attacked, we can't talk about it. We can't mention it. We can't talk about it. And so, oh, I'm sorry, we can't talk about how black women, you're being grossly underpaid, but you got multiple degrees. We can't talk about the black people in corporate America who train the white people who then get promoted, but the black person who's far more qualified never gets actually promoted. No, we actually can't talk about those things because, Michael, it makes them uncomfortable.
Well, you're going to stay uncomfortable when I speak. So not only multiple degrees, but more student loan debt, and part of Project 2025 is to eliminate student loan forgiveness. Okay, and so you're not going to have the student loan forgiveness under the Biden-Harris administration that you're not going to have that under the Trump administration that you had under the Biden-Harris administration. But the comments here about Scott Jennings, and I can't stand Scott Jennings. I can't. I see him sometimes on CNN, but what he did was he does what Republicans and Black Republicans always do when they are backed into a corner. They never focus on the pattern. They always make it an isolated incident. This comes straight out of the Republican playbook, okay? So he talked about, he's basically saying you're one of the good ones. That's what he said. Yep. He didn't want to deal with the fact that Black women make 69 cents on the dollar that the average white male makes, and it takes the average Black woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male made the previous 12 months. And that accumulates over 40-year working lifetime, 40-year working career, almost $1 million in lost earnings that African-American women lose out on. That's because of racism. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. And this is why Black women's equal pay day exists. It happens in August. So when you look at the facts on this, and CNBC.com has an article, Black women make nearly $1 million less than white men during their careers. This is from August 3rd, 2021. Go check go deal with the facts on this. So, and this is dealing with economics. They don't want to deal with economics because the whole purpose of racism was to maldistribute wealth, power, resources into the hands of Europeans. And they are reconsolidating that in this whole backlash that we see, the attack on DEI, rescinding affirmative action. This is countersetting the racial reckoning that took place after the death of George Floyd. And they said, we're done with this. Donald Trump is back in office, and they are putting in place Project 2025. Hashtag we tried to tell you.
Zachary.
They are feeling bad because they feel guilt. And the guilt hurts. The guilt hurts. It's what their ancestors did to our ancestors, and it's what they are doing currently to us and to people like Ashley Allison, who is one of the most gifted and talented journalists that we are blessed to have on our television screens. Not only is she a phenomenal journalistic personality and voice, but she is an entrepreneur who is fighting and combating misinformation and disinformation in the Black and brown communities through Watering Hole Media. I'm a huge fan of Ashley, not of CNN, I prefer, Roland Martin, Unfiltered, and Black Star Network any day of the week. Everything that Michael said, I once again want to reiterate. Hands down, this is all laid out in Project 2025. If you would have read it, if you would have just, or not read it, look at all of the content that was being pushed out all across social media platforms about this, you would have seen that the plan is to not only take away opportunities for minorities to go to college, but to take away that funding, to take away Pell Grants, to take away student loans. All of that's in the pipeline and probably going to come down on us so that we will be able to, or be forced back into the Black jobs. They don't want us in the C-suites. They don't want to see our faces in the workplace. They don't want us represented. They want us in those fields working what they determine to be our Black jobs. And we have to do all that we can to educate our people and encourage our community to fight back through the available means to ensure that that day doesn't happen. We have earned our place. Where we are, what we have earned it. We have over-earned it. We are oftentimes, just like Ashley said, underpaid, undersupported, and underfunded, continuously and consistently. DEI didn't give us any advantages. All it did was give us due consideration. DEI did not give us any advantages. All it gave us was due consideration.
The reality, what's this? What did it say, Matt?
I don't see color, Roland. I don't see color. How often do you hear that?
Oh yeah, which is first of all,
I don't see color. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You see color, and you think I'm the Black that's acceptable. I'm okay, right? You're the one that's all right, Matt. Doesn't matter how we treat the rest of them. You're okay. That's exactly what you saw Scott Jennings do. You're the Black I'm okay with, Ashley. That's what we're seeing.
And that's the whole trick of the colorblind society. Dr. King wasn't fighting for a colorblind society. He was trying to dismantle white supremacy and racism. He was very proud to be black. He talked about that before. He said be black and proud. What they tried to do, what Donald Trump said on January 20th at when he was inaugurated, is going back to a Supreme Court ruling that Clarence Thomas made. He made the majority decision on it. I forgot the case. But it was an argument between Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Brown Jackson, and he was talking about a colorblind society. And this is the language that these conservatives latch on to. We want a colorblind society, merit-based, so we're going to get rid of affirmative action and DEI, and everything's equal. That's all.
So I want folks, again, for all these folks the Scott Jennings of the world and the Frank Luntz of the world and the Patrick Bet-Davids, here's a perfect example, a study that was done last year. White-sounding names get called back for jobs more than black ones. This is from NPR. It's dated April 11, 2024. It said 20 years ago, two economists responded to a slew of help-wanted ads in Boston and Chicago newspapers using a set of fictitious names to test for racial bias in the job market. The Watershed study found that applicants with names suggesting they were white got 50% more callbacks from employers than those whose names indicated they were black. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of Chicago recently took that premise and expanded on it, filing 83,000 fake job applications for 11,000 entry-level positions at a variety of Fortune 500 companies. Their working paper, published this month, entitled A Discrimination Report Card, found that the typical employer called back the presumably white applicant around 9% more than the black ones. That number rose to roughly 24% for the worst offenders. So this is the point. Same resume, different names. Mm-hmm. That's what Ashley Allison was trying to explain to those idiots, that you can be black and you can have 5 degrees and you can have a law degree and an MBA and they will underpay you compared to white counterparts. And here's what's crazy. Happens to white women. I remember there was a woman who went to seminary and applied for a job at a Southern Baptist Convention church. She was a single white mother. And there was a white man who applied for a job, and the church literally told her, she was already there, the church told her that they were going to pay the white man more because he was married and had kids, and she was a single woman. Not, are you doing the job? Not, are you a hard worker? Not, are you competent? No, he's a man with kids and a wife, and you're single, so you don't actually need as much money as he does. Those folks don't want to hear that. And what Frank Luntz, of all people, and let me be real clear, this is the same Frank Luntz who, through his focus groups, focus tested racial language. Frank Luntz, frankly, should never be on any cable network, because Frank Luntz is part of the problem with today's politics. And he's actually talked about it in the past. It was his focus groups. How do we craft certain language that will get these white Republican voters to support or oppose certain things? He's part of the problem. And so when he sits there and goes, well, in my focus group, they're tired of being, that's just toxic language. They're tired of being called those names. Let me just say this real quick. If you are a Donald Trump voter and you're MAGA Republican, and you're tired of being called racist and being called sexist, why don't you stop supporting racists and sexists? What a novel concept.